So you've written a script, and it's good. I mean, like, really good. You've written 24 drafts, you've received countless notes from friends and collaborators. This thing is ready to be seen by producers, investors, actors, and you've got IMDb Pro. So this is gonna end up in some legit inboxes. Problem is, when you send it, it's not read. You hear nothing back from anyone. Now, there are obviously a variety of reasons for this, and I'm not today going to go into the proper etiquette of sending unsolicited material to individuals in the industry. But what I am going to talk about today is the importance of pitching. Yes, before you can expect anyone to invest even 2 hours of their time reading your script, you have to concisely, compellingly, and winningly pitch that concept to them. Which is why I am so very excited that this video is sponsored by InVideo AI. Now, I'll dive deeper into all the ways that this tool can help you create stunning cinematic visuals for your pitch. But let me just say up front, InVideo AI really is a fantastic tool that can help you bring your pitch to life in some really fun new ways. More on that soon. For now, let me just say this about pitching. Do not wait to start pitching. Don't wait until you've finished those 24 drafts before you start articulating your vision for this project to other people. Pitch it when you first come up with a premise. Pitch it again after you finish the first draft, and pitch it to everyone, not just people who get you, who know your voice, because pitching isn't just about selling your story. It's about discovering your story. If you make the most of those pitches, you will discover some of the most essential parts of your story. You will discover who your hero is. You'll also define why an audience will empathize with your hero. Also, as you pitch your story, you'll begin to unearth that story's setup. You'll discover who your hero is at the start of your film and what their life looked like many days before that. You'll identify that film's inciting incident, the call to action for the hero that propels them into this story. And you'll pinpoint what your hero really wants. Do they want to win? Do they want to stop something? Do they want to escape from something? Do they want to retrieve something? And after identifying their want, you'll get a much clearer picture as to what the central conflict is. Is it man versus nature? Is it man versus man? Is it man versus self? Or a mix of all three. And finally, you'll probably get a much clearer picture of how this conflict changes your character and what their arc is in that story. But hold up, Chris. You've told us that we will identify these oh so important elements as we pitch, but you haven't yet told us how to pitch. You are correct. So let's talk about that now. Let's talk about how you can package all of those very important ideas into a compelling and concise 60-second pitch. Now, credit where credit is due. I'm actually borrowing a lot of these ideas from one of my favorite books on the subject, that being Selling Your Story in 60 Seconds by Michael Haug. So the first thing to consider is, what do you say first? How should you begin a pitch in a compelling and exciting way? Well, one way to begin a pitch is with a very simple phrase, that being, I think the best way to tell you about the story is to tell you how I came up with the idea. Why? Why is that such an excellent way to begin a pitch? Well, because it's already, from the word go, drawing the audience into a story. The story of how you came up with this idea. And it gets them to lean in, pay that much closer attention. So, an example of this might be, I think the best way to tell you about this story is to tell you how I came up with the idea. See, there are few things that tear me up more than being unable to communicate, whether it's from a lack of words, understanding, or simply courage. That inability is so isolating and crushing, which is probably one of the main reasons why I love the fantasy genre so very much. There is a magic and power in that genre, this ability to communicate even the most other of ideas, characters, and themes. I love it. Even in its written form, there's a power in those words. And probably equal to my love of the fantasy genre is my love of music. It too having this capacity to carry me to places of joy, sorrow, and contemplation. So there's an example of how to intro a concept. Before I move on to the next phase of the pitch, I wanted to pause for a second and explain why exactly I shared those specific elements in this intro. Yes, part of the reason was I wanted to draw you into my personal connection with this project, but also what I was doing there was very subtly setting up the hero, why you might empathize with that hero, what the setup of the story is, what the character's primary motivation is, as well as what the central conflict is. Yep, in talking about my inability to sometimes communicate, what I was actually doing is setting up this film's hero, as well as why an audience might empathize with him. In bringing up my love of the fantasy genre, I was introducing this film's genre, as well as the setup of its world. In talking about the magic of that genre, I was not only setting up the magic found in this story, but how that magic might motivate our central hero. In mentioning how words have power, I was actually teeing up the central conflict of the story, which has everything to do with the power of words. Again, that intro wasn't just about me sharing my personal connection with the story, but actually specifically introducing this story and the elements found within it. But now, how do we move from the intro to the story itself? Well, two very simple words. What if? So let's return to the example. If you recall, in the intro, I talked about how distressed I can get when I'm unable to communicate, as well as my love of the fantasy genre and music. And after introing those things, I might say something along the lines of, and with all that in mind, I found myself thinking, what if? What if in an ancient, war-torn land where not just music, but voices themselves have been silenced? What if in that broken, silent land we meet a crippled young orphan who discovers a new kind of magic, a new kind of power? Not magic found in a wand, not power found in a sword, but magic and power found in his own voice. And now, sharing that gift with friend and foe, he attempts to unite his land long divided by centuries of war. But his people, long ago, gave up their voices for a lesser kind of magic and remain opposed to each other and to our hero. And now, to save them and to reclaim their voices, our young hero must go on a quest to find the evil sorcerer that stole that power from his people, confront him, and bring it back. That is my film, Voices of Thunder. See what I did there? I used the words what if to transition from the source of the idea to what makes the idea unique. Now, I should point out at this juncture that what I did in telling the story was not walk through its narrative beat by beat. No, I distilled its basic plot points into their central conflicts. Now, to be clear, this will take time and effort to iron out, especially if you are crafting a sci-fi or a fantasy film. It is way too easy to get lost in the nerdy details when pitching your concept. You need to take the time, though, to figure out what is the central conflict and present that. But now that we have talked about how to articulate your pitch in words, let's talk about something that is also oh so important when pitching a film, that being the visuals. Now, while there are indeed a number of different ways to generate visuals for a pitch, stock footage, stills from existing films, what if you're crafting something that is a really high concept, that has really unique visuals like those found in Voices of Thunder? Because let's be real, producers, investors, even actors oftentimes don't want just the words. They want to see the vision. The problem is, unless you have a massive Hollywood budget already or are an excellent visual effects artist, you're stuck. Fortunately, bringing things back around to today's sponsor, that is where a tool like NVIDIA AI can really help you out. And let me just say, this latest update, version 3, really does change the game. Unlike other AI tools that just generate clips, NVIDIA AI can actually create a full video from scratch with a single text prompt. With this, you're not just going to get some random assets that you have to stitch together yourself. If you want, you can get a fully generated, published-ready video that brings your vision to life. So how does NVIDIA AI actually work? Well, it's actually refreshingly simple. You go to their website, you type in a prompt like ancient ruins at sunset with smoke rising off in the distance, and boom, NVIDIA AI generates it for you. Want a character walking through a world? Type it in. And within minutes, you'll have a fully structured cinematic video. And the part that really is meaningful and oh so important to me is the amount of control that I can have over these clips. If I don't like exactly what was produced, I can click Edit Media and swap in stock footage or generate something totally new. And if I want a voiceover, NVIDIA can actually clone my voice so the narration can sound just like me. If I want another language, it can translate my video into 50 plus different languages with just one command. Now, let's bring this all back to pitching. If you were working on a sci-fi or a fantasy concept that requires lots of visual effects, this really is, not to overuse the phrase, but a bit of a game changer. Rather than saying in a pitch, imagine an epic battle, you can actually show them that epic battle. Instead of simply explaining the world of your film, you can transport them there. And at the end of the day, this really could be the difference between the person listening to you saying, yeah, that seems pretty cool, and I need to see that, where do I sign? And if any of this sounds intriguing, the really cool thing is, you can try NVIDIA AI for free. From there, if you're liking what you experience, you can get access to their full generative capabilities by subscribing to their different plans, which, trust me, is way more affordable than many of the alternatives. And just to give you a specific idea of what you can do with something like NVIDIA AI, here again is my pitch for Voices of Thunder, except this time accompanied with some NVIDIA AI visuals. Enjoy.
I'm only going over home. I'm only going over home.
There you go. Now, I personally think that elevates the story concept just a little bit. Today's takeaways: make sure that you are pitching your story sooner rather than later. Not just focusing on selling that story, but discovering that story. Be concise and winning in word, but then also consider how you can also be concise and winning with your visuals. That's all I got for you guys today. Hopefully this was helpful, and I'll talk to you all again soon. Cheers. Not exactly the kind of musical battle that I was imagining. Let's try that again, shall we?